What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Impact Intact for the first time in a few weeks. Sorry about that. Was not CJ's fault. It was all mine. But that doesn't matter. We're back. You know the drama that I had with my computer. I'm on a new computer. Everything's looking crispy. It's sounding crispy. It's great. I'm here, and we're back for Impact Intact now. We have not. We're not changing course here because 2 weeks ago I messaged CJ. This is how, by the way, we choose episodes. I messaged CJ and say we're watching this one.
Yes.
And that's not purely well, it's because I'm a little bit of a dick, but also like I just know more about TNA, so I'm like, we're going to watch this one.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started Impact Intact, like when the idea was spawning in my head of like I want to do something with TNA, this was an episode that I knew that I would cover at some point in the show's existence. It's a very big episode. We'll get more to that in a minute, but it has been a couple of weeks. Well, not for a couple of weeks for you being on the Hive, of course, because you were with JPJ a couple times a week with the Swarm. But for those that don't watch the Swarm, which by the way, I don't know why you're not, because Swarm's doing great things. They got sports on Wednesdays and wrestling on Fridays. You can watch both. You can watch one over the other if you don't watch some stuff. If you do watch some stuff, you can pick your poison, I guess you could say. But you've been rocking and rolling over there for the last couple of weeks while I've been out of here. But how was life without Josh on the Hive? Was it just like, were you just like madmen running with no fucking leader? That's what it felt like.
Yeah, I felt like when your parent, like if you had like, I didn't, but on the movies where the rich parents are gone to, Mexico for the week and the kids have house parties, that's pretty much what we were just talking shit about you and,
Hell yeah.
yeah, you know how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I still watch the shit. I have a lot of notes. Obviously, I'm like, well we
Mm-hmm.
got to go through that. But I'll have an official meeting off air, of course, with all of you guys to be basically just be like, listen, this is what are you doing?
Right.
You're just crumbling without your fearless leader. No, I'm
I didn't
obviously.
realize you were also HR, so I might be in trouble now. So
Well, who the fuck else would be?
that's true. That's a good point. I may have messed up.
It's just me. um,
That's a good point. I might have should have thought about that.
I don't know who else you're just expecting some fucking woman in a pantsuit to pop out, but like, no, it's just me, boy with a fucking WrestleMania 38 hoodie on, and been like, actually, guys, you can't say bitch and tits anymore.
Might
I'm,
as well
I'm
get
here
off the
to.
airwaves.
If I can say bitch and tits anymore, there's no point in me doing any kind of content because
This will be the Hive's
I
last episode of any.
I'm swear central. I'm always so like worried about like, oh, don't swear too much when I'm just like fuck shit ass like every fucking 3.5 seconds. Like it's so bad. Like I'm terrible for it. I can't help it. When people are like, you got to come on my show, you can't swear. I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm the best person for you to have on because I actually can't articulate any thought without swearing. It's just, I honestly think I don't mean to blame it on my nationality here, but I think it is because I'm Australian
Well,
and we
and
just
then you
swear
got
a lot.
two loudmouths from Boston who's like known to be like one of the rudest cities in America. So
Yeah, and JPJ, I mean this in an endearing way because I love JPJ, but he can be an angry unit when he wants to be. When he
if
gets
you've seen
worked
the
up,
Swarm when he talks about the Red Sox, anybody would.
if you've had a conversation with
Oh
JPJ,
boy,
he can get worked up. Bless his heart. Bless his heart. He's just a very passionate individual,
that's true.
He's very passionate.
He
Go
lives
follow
around here.
JPJ, by the way, everywhere at JPJ Loves Gaming. He's got some more stuff coming up with the Hive. We got watch parties coming back this coming week. It is Monday that you're watching this. We got watch parties for Raw, All In, and Evolution all coming up this week here on the Hive. There's a lot going on. It's just a busy time in wrestling because we got that weekend. Then we're looking at SummerSlam, 2-day SummerSlam for the first time. So we will have a combination of JPJ, CJ, myself, Stuart,
Peggy making her on-screen debut next week.
Yeah, Peggy will be here for Evolution, which if anyone knows me, you know that I'm excited for Evolution despite the 2-week build to Evolution. I know those girls will go out and fucking kill it, and they'll have probably one of the better pay-per-views or PLEs of the year, in my opinion, just in sheer quality of card. But we're not going to get into that. I'll get into that throughout the week. But
on the watch along, especially make sure you
they're-
tune in
they're-
for
they're-
Josh's rant during the watch along if you want to see it.
Yeah, I'll probably rant about how they're being set up to fail because it's like fucking. There's a lot going on in Atlanta that weekend.
Really?
If you just look at
Didn't hear about it.
yeah, there's a concert across the fucking road with one of the biggest female pop. Well, sorry, one of the biggest pop stars in the entire world is going on across the road from that. So whatever. There's Giddy making her appearance on Impact Intact. What are you doing?
What does she think
Crawling
about
on around.
evolution? What does Giddy
She
think about
doesn't.
evolution?
The Giddy is probably one of the biggest sexists in the world. She genuinely
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
like women. She growls at them if they come over. So, um, that's awesome for me because I have a lot of female friends and they can't come to my house because he growls at them. So
Giddy
Giddy
runs
is
the house.
she's a one woman kind of show. She's like, I'm the only
Mm,
woman that, to be
fair.
fair though, she doesn't really like other men. So
Okay.
she's just kind of like, I'm Giddy's for Giddy. So if it was just
Fair.
Giddy on Evolution, she thinks it would be the greatest thing ever. But because she has to share the screen, she barely likes to share this house with me. She's like,
I
when is
don't know if I
October?
believe
When are you
her.
going to Perth? Because I need you gone. I need you out of here. Out of here for 6
Yeah.
days.
I don't blame her.
For a little before we get rocking and rolling with this episode of Impact, for a little a capsule of what I've been up to in 2 weeks. It's a lot of been boring because I've had no computer. I did go to Katy Perry. If you didn't see my 62 tweet rampage that I had live tweeting that show, it was certainly an experience. Not one that I completely hated. There was elements of it
Don't
that were like,
spoil it. Everybody has to go to the Substack to see your thoughts on it.
it's true, but this is just a little teaser for the Substack. A little,
Okay.
little
Fair. Fair.
sprinkling. You got to tease them, and then they go
Fair.
and read the whole thing. I do have a thing over on Substack, full review of the Lifetimes tour in Adelaide. That went to Adelaide with Katy Perry, but it was pop concerts are a journey. Let's put it that way. But
That's true.
if I can say one positive thing about it, she didn't lip sync. She sang live.
Hey,
So praise
can't
to
complain
her.
about that.
And listen, those little 13-year-old girls and gay men that were in that arena were going ape shit crazy. They loved it. She was like God to them. And I was just like sitting there like, oh my Lord, there was a lot of tomfoolery that went on in that show. But hey, it was a night out. My mum had a good time. So that's all that fucking matters,
All that
right?
matters.
All that matters. All right. So let's get into this episode of Impact Wrestling. It is June 3rd, 2015. An interesting time in the professional wrestling scene. The wrestling business around this time, when I said to you we're going to do this and then watch this show, I was like, what was going on in 2015? Around this time, if you remember, the Authority were a big thing on WWE programming. Seth Rollins was just about to win Money in the Bank. Like, this is all... Oh, he had won Money in the Bank. And then he was WWE champ, was he? Either. Seth Rollins was kind of rocking and rolling around this. He won the Money in the Bank in 2015 or 2014. Might have been 2014, and then he was WWE champion by here.
What WrestleMania was it? 31?
31. So, yeah, so he cashed
he already
in.
won it. He already won
it. He had cashed in. So this was,
Yep.
I think the business was changing a lot because NXT was starting to really gain a lot of steam around this time. It was just before like NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. So like on the other side of things, Impact was in a weird state at this time. I know everyone knows that I was like very into Impact. I was very into TNA, in the years of like 2007 to like 2014. So I had just kind of, at this point, Impact was just, they were going through a lot of rebrands. It was like it was still trying to search for their identity. This is like a year after like Hogan had gone. They went through like the Dixie Carter heel authority era and stuff like that, which I'm sure we'll cover at some point in this journey of this show. But it was just a really, really, really weird time for TNA. It didn't. I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot throughout this show, but there was a certain essence of this episode. I'm like, this doesn't feel like TNA. It doesn't feel like what I know as TNA anyway. But this is June 3rd, 2015, Orlando, Florida, the Impact Zone. First episode of TNA on Destination America. Not only that, it's the first episode of Impact that was on Wednesday nights. It was a Wednesday night episode. It's really weird that I will say that I just assume, first night on Destination America, first night on Wednesday nights, you'd think that this would be live, but it certainly was not. It was certainly a tape show because you could tell that it was a tape show by the way it was edited, I guess you could say.
Especially you can't have someone die on live TV, Josh. So.
Well, actually,
Mm.
we're not going to go into that, but yes, you can.
Okay, well, yeah, but you might not want to. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you don't. Maybe unintentionally, but
Although to be fair, they didn't even edit this person dying out of the show, so maybe they didn't give a shit at the end of the day.
Well, we'll see what happens there. But so before we get into the opening segment, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. The branding of TNA at this issue, it was a lot of blue. The Impact Wrestling logo was different. It was just,
it was modernized. It wasn't really like the Impact logo that you're seeing here, for instance.
No, it was. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there was something about it that I really didn't like.
Okay.
Did you like it?
No, because and you mentioned this is the first episode of Destination Network here in America anyway. It was very Destination America had the shows of Naked and Afraid and shows like that at first.
Okay.
So it was kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but a lot of the shows on Destination America had that vibe of a logo.
Okay, no, I understand it had that they had their branding almost down.
Yeah.
So they just maybe Impact adapted to.
I guess. I did not like it though.
No, I thought it looked tacky. Something else that looked very tacky was the fact that the commentators were in a booth.
Yeah.
It was Josh Matthews and the Pope.
The Pope,
Yeah. Josh Matthews and the Pope. Weird team. Never rated Josh Matthews as a commentator personally. Something about the frequency of his voice hits my ears in a very unusual way that I don't love, and I'm like,
he randomly yells in the middle of a word.
Yeah, why? It just sounded odd though because you could tell they weren't in the arena.
Yeah, right. So
and it was weirdly dubbed over and it was just not mixed very well, and I was like, whoa.
So, like Josh mentioned, obviously, me and JBG do a sports show, so I'm a huge sports fan. A lot of these international soccer games, they don't send so obviously if it's a game in Spain, they'll have Spanish commentators, but ESPN bought the rights to the Spanish league games so you can watch them in America. They don't send the English speaking commentators to the game. So a goal scores in the last minute, the crowd's going insane and it's just dead silent. It sounds
because they have to dub similar. Over the
That's similar to what it sounds. It was just you
could, and it was just
tell.
On top of that, it was not to be technical terms, but it was mixed very poorly with the they didn't really even if it it just wasn't gelling. It wasn't gelling very well at all. But that's just a note so I don't have to keep saying it over and over because it really bothered me throughout this whole show of just oh my lord, why is it's just weird. It was just weird audio.
Real quick before we get into the show, we always talked about these shows from 6, 7, 8 years before this, how great in the lighting and the production and stuff was, and 10 years later it's way worse. You think it would get way better?
Yeah, I've said I think in nearly every episode of Impact, because we've kind of veered in the same kind of era. Right. I like that aesthetic. I like that vibe. I like the way the audio's mixed. It just made it sound like there was 80,000 people in there when there was two. And it was perfect. But here was the opposite. It was dark. It was
8 years later. It's way worse.
It was dark. It was mixed really poorly. The way they had the audio. I don't know if they didn't have the crowd mic'd properly or if it was just a combination of everything that we've kind of stated. It just wasn't hitting, and there was something very off about that element of it anyway. But let's talk about what this show opens up with. There's a video package. This is the Ethan Carter the third era of TNA. They're
very quickly too.
They're for whatever reasoning you have to dislike him or whatever, say it didn't work or whatever, credit to TNA in this era because they had their man and they were putting everything behind him to make sure he was the focal point of this company at this stage. So whether it worked or it didn't, it's no fault to them putting stock in him because they tried really hard. He is the centerpiece for this whole episode of this of all of the intertwining stories that we're going to talk about, he's the main reason why they're all kind of coming together. Oh man, but the video package opens up for Ethan Carter III, and then we go to the ring, and there's a barbershop quartet kind of singing.
Oh, there sure is.
The EC3 theme, trouble, 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 trouble. Whoa, they're doing their thing. And then EC3 comes out. He's got like a lady on each arm. I will say, if you just look at EC3, you're like, well,
superstar. You can see
you're
why
like,
they put some sock in him.
You're like, okay, that's our man. We'll talk about him wrestling later.
Oh, shit,
but that's our man. Like, he looks the part. He's jacked. He's a pretty boy. Like, he's just, and he's very like modern. He's very, at least
he's very 2015. Like, he's very 2015.
Yeah, he looks like that era of men, or what men.
Right. What a wrestler's supposed to look like.
Yeah, he was just. It was like, okay, that's our guy. I can see why they wanted stock behind him.
Right.
And the bell rings. But so yeah, they're singing. This is another constant point that we're going to talk about a lot, because they like to talk about a lot. He's the #1 ranked wrestler in TNA. They talk about this ranking thing.
This gets very convoluted throughout the night.
It's very confusing, but he's the #1 ranked wrestler in TNA, but that doesn't make you the #1 contender, or does it? I was confused by it, to be completely honest.
They were confused by it, it seems like.
Because if you're the #1 ranked wrestler, in my eyes, you should be the world champion.
Or at least if you want to say the champion's not in the rankings.
Yeah, you're the #1. If you're the #1 ranked wrestler, then you should be fighting the world champion. Oh, I see it.
Not here, clearly. Yeah, so he had a you forgot to mention he had his meet with him, I guess you would talk about. Another not great human being.
Tyrus was here. Because that was his insurance policy. That was his heavy, basically. So they I'm trying to break this segment down as best I can, but he has like the barbershop guys do. He's a jolly good fellow, but he's the #1 contender in that style. You know, he's the #1 contender. Then he tells Tyrus that he should start dancing, because of Tyrus, of course, is Brodus Clay and the Funkasaurus. He starts doing a little jiggle, but then he's like, "No, I don't do anything for the people."
Yeah, these people don't deserve it.
They want to take him seriously. Carter's just like, Angle's great. He's a great world champion, but I'm better. Blah, blah, blah. You know, standard heel bullshit. There's really not too much to say. I don't necessarily think Ethan Carter's a horrible promo. I think he's okay.
That's the least of his deficiencies, I would say.
Yeah, it's like, you look at him. If you looked at him half naked, you would be like, okay. Then he talks, and you'd be like, sure.
Yeah. You're like,
then he wrestles, and you're like, oh,
there's the problem. Like, there's the issue.
Gotcha. All right, I see why this isn't working.
Not that TNA gave a shit, by the way.
Well, no, they just steered course. They just fucking kept going. But he's just like, blah, blah, blah. I want to be the world champion. And then basically Angle comes out and like talks about Destination X. And then
he talks about like Luthez and Vern Gagne. Like, those guys are rolling over in their grave because of this. He like points to like the barbershop. And
I don't think that's, honestly, I was like, Angle, that's extreme. I'm like, they're just singing.
Yeah,
I was like, it's not that fucking bad. But whatever.
Because dead wrestlers.
So Destination X is coming up, and they had this thing from like 2012 onwards where it was like, if you're the X Division champion at the time, Destination X is coming up. You can cash in your X Division championship for a shot at the World Championship, which the first time was great with Austin Aries in 2012. They did it to perfection. Then they kept doing it, and it got weird. And I was like, doesn't it devalue the X Division championship by doing like,
just toss it? I don't want this shit. Yeah.
Fuck this. I'm going for the world title. But Rockstar Spud is the X Division champion, so he has the opportunity to cash in the title for a shot at the World Championship next week at Destination X. Of course, Rockstar Spud was involved with EC3. They had their whole thing. we won't get into that too much, but they were aligned and now they're no longer aligned. So that's the kind of
That's the connection there.
That's the connection. Angle beats up. He goes crazy and then beats up the fucking quartet, doesn't he?
This quartet took an absolute beating, and mentally and physically.
It's funny. It's funny how they know how to take back bumps, isn't it? I'm like, oh, you just found some quartet singers that know how to take back bumps. Good for you guys.
Those barbershops could get violent. You never know.
They could. That's the end of that. He gives one of them an angle slam. Blah blah blah. EC3 runs off. He's mad.
He was. First match of the night coming up, Josh.
Yeah, that's fucking right. Well, first they do cut to the commentators from their broadcast booth in Nashville, which is
certainly not where this was.
This is certainly in Orlando,
Orlando, Tennessee, apparently, or Nashville, Florida, whichever.
Nashville, Orlando, Florida is what they were trying to get at here.
How it's called,
they're very weird. Like we said before, very weird team.
This is one of the. I would say we've watched worse episodes here in the little bit we've done this show.
We will.
Yes. But this was maybe the weirdest.
It's just very odd. Something just felt very odd.
Every single segment and match was off. But
it felt really weird. And I can't quite put my finger on exactly why, but just something felt off. But we do throw to our first match. It is Bobby Lashley versus Eric Young.
Yes. The match lasted 5:29, Josh. 5:29.
Which, going by TNA terms, on their episodes of iMPACT that we watched, basically. So, I don't really have too much to say about this match.
I have one line in this match. Lashley it's the typical Bobby Lashley in this era match against a small guy. He just kind of ragdolls him for a while.
Sure.
And then like the smaller guy gets his little hot run, and then Lashley's like, "No, I'm winning the match."
I have opinions on Bobby Lashley.
Sure.
And I always have felt this way. This isn't just a new opinion. I've never really loved Bobby Lashley. I never really thought he was really that great.
No, the only thing I liked about him is that, again, I come from a while ago covering MMA and stuff like that, boxing. So he's like I've always thought of him as like a legit guy that could mess your ass up.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's the only reason I liked him a little bit is because he was believable, and I like that in wrestling sometimes.
I always think he kind of moves like a newborn giraffe. Like his legs don't know where they're going sometimes.
That's not a horrible comparison.
Yeah, it's just his legs are kind of going weird, and like just the way his body moves.
And even now, like on AEW, when MVP's talking for, he just doesn't kind of know where to look or where to put his arms.
Like, what is going on?
That's like a baby giraffe.
That's a newborn giraffe, but whatever. But anyway, Bobby Lashley goes over with the spear. They had like a person come out at the end.
Chris Melendez.
Yeah.
He was trying to go after Eric Young. Eric Young got away, however.
Yeah.
We'll see more on that later, though.
Mr.
Melendez. That's a thing that happened on the show.
Yeah. We have a backstage segment next with Rockstar Spud. For anyone that doesn't know, by the way, Rockstar Spud was in WWE. What the fuck was his name? I kind of think his name.
Drake Maverick in NXT.
Drake
They
Maverick.
also did that. He was most famous for that. He actually was going to get released, and they pretended it was a storyline the whole time.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we're just kidding. Yeah, he made a video
I don't
saying...
mean it in a nasty way, but he did cry.
Like, he was, like, legitimately, like, thanking WWE for his time. It sucks I got released, but you gave me the biggest platform, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then they turned it into a storyline. Oh, that was bullshit. He was just...
Did he get released again, or is he still
No, he got released. He might be an agent or something, but he definitely got released again. He definitely got released again.
He was a 24/7 champ, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The main roster. I think there was a lot more you could have done with him, just in terms of like he's a sheer comedy wrestler, and I don't.
He was kind of funny too.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with comedy wrestlers. I think they have their place. Sure. I think you can push them to the moon, in my opinion. Yeah, they could be world champion if you let them.
Sure, absolutely.
Because comedy wrestlers always get over, and they always have a lot of sympathy. There's something about them that is just really easy on the human mind.
Look at Chelsea Green, was some of the most over in the company a couple months ago.
Yeah, like if you switched her babyface tomorrow, it would just be like, this is... And just have her keep losing. Comedy wrestlers can lose every single match, and we still love them.
And I think that's why they're valuable.
Yeah, comedy wrestlers are... And I think they're a little bit appreciated in
100%.
the wrestling business, to be completely honest, because they're looked at as, haha, you can't do anything.
Right.
But they actually can. But Rockstar Spud is backstage. He's basically going on. He spent 14 years to win the X Division Championship, and he's got to weigh in whether he's going to cash in this shot for a world championship. Like they had this in Impact a lot. There was like a person behind the camera that was always asking him the question, but you didn't know what they
Yeah.
looked like.
I was like, who the hell are you talking?
But he's like, Spud doesn't really know what he's going to do. Listen, if I was Rockstar Spud, I would not be trading him my championship for a shot at Kurt fucking Angle. I'm not
Let's
doing
read
it.
the room here, Rock. All
Read
right,
the fucking
you're not
room.
beating Kurt Angle here. Let's lock in here a little bit.
We then we look back at last week when Taryn Terrell defeated Gail Kim in the cage, by the way.
Yeah.
This is the era. I think we alluded to this when we talked about Taryn Terrell and Gail Kim's last knockout standing match back a few weeks ago on this show now. I mentioned to you the Dollhouse, and you didn't really have too much of a memory of the Dollhouse. I don't believe. I don't want to speak for you, but
I got a full plate of it here, though. However,
yeah, the Dollhouse is Taryn Terrell, Marty Bell, and Jade, who is Mia Yim.
Yeah.
Basically, okay, so in the time I remember like being out of TNA, but I still watched the girls because
Right.
on the opposite side of things, the Divas Revolution was just starting. And again, I've, waxed poetic about how like TNA was the start of the women's evolution in wrestling. They were doing it a lot longer before WWE.
Right.
But this era was really interesting because Taryn Terrell is not really someone in TNA that had like much of a character. I would say she was kind of like a scrappy underdog.
Right.
I mean, then she went away for a while and then come back as a heel. And I was like, Taryn Terrell is a heel? I don't really know if that's going to work. Now, I actually think the Dollhouse did work. It wasn't really around for a really long time. Taryn was kind of in and out in this time, but it was like how do you describe the Dollhouse? How would I describe? It was sexualized, obviously.
Yes.
It was like, but it was like playing with my doll. Like I want to say like Taryn Terrell like was the leader, obviously, and maybe Marty Bell and Jade were her dolls, or like they were the Dollhouse,
maybe.
and then they were playing with the other knockouts were their dolls, so they could do what they want to them.
Well,
I don't really understand it too much, but it
because
was very sexualized.
I think you're right, because at the end of the segment, we'll get a little bit into the segment, but just
Yeah.
Taryn told Jade that she'll be playing alone tonight.
Yeah.
So that's like she's like her dolls, yeah. So I get what you mean.
Yeah, so she's going into a program with Awesome Kong. That's the kind of time, which is an interesting concept because you're having a heel Taryn Terrell against a baby-faced monster in Awesome Kong. I never have liked that in wrestling when the monsters are baby faces. It's just unnatural to me. It's like, well, no, because like Awesome Kong could break Taryn Terrell in half if she wanted to. She's Awesome Kong. So really but I mean, they have the numbers and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But all I remember about this segment is the end is when she said she's going to put the X in Destination X.
Oh, Lord.
Do you get it? Because she has titters
I do.
and like she's a woman. So of course she's sexy.
Oh, that's what that meant. Okay.
Because that was like a thing in wrestling for the longest time. If you're a heel woman, you have to be sexy. And you have to use your body to get ahead.
Okay.
Here's my titties. I'm a bad girl. That was basically how wrestling viewed women for 90% of heel characters, unless you were like plain looking and Molly Holly and they called
unless you were
fat.
7 foot and insane human being like Awesome Kong.
Yeah, basically that's how they went of like, you're either a heel because you're so hot or a heel because you're so ugly. That was basically
you're
how
the big
wrestling
ogre
worked.
or you're like some hot blonde.
Yeah, basically how it worked. And man, but I mean, for whatever reason, it worked sometimes. It didn't work all the time, but I guess it's working here to a certain degree. But yeah, she's gonna put the X in Destination X.
Interesting. And we're on Destination America, by the way, Josh.
There's so many destinations, I don't even know where to stop.
Too many.
Perhaps here. Maybe we should just stop
here.
here.
That'll be it. We'll see you next week.
It's going down the hill. There's more backstage segments after this, is there not? Or am I making that up?
We see the wonderful Chris Melendez again.
Oh, yes, of course.
Who is again speaking to a cameraman. What do you think about Eric Young? He's a very, I don't want to say embarrassing, but very old, like WWE, like 2K20 story mode promo. I'm gonna get my hands on him. Like, okay,
that's very wrestling.
Yeah, and I said, I'll stop at nothing to get my hands on Eric. And the cameraman's like, okay, thanks for talking. All right.
Bye. Woohoo. Then do we get a match next? No, because there's more backstage promos.
Austin Aries. He kind of runs down, like you mentioned. He was the first one to do that, cash in his exhibition title for the TNA World title, and said while it worked out for him, he doesn't recommend Rockstar Spud doing it. Yeah, kind of like warns him not to do it. Because Austin Aries has something for us later on in the night as well, Josh.
Yeah, so Austin Aries, I believe, has a briefcase from Feast or Fired, I want to say. Feast or Fired was like this concept where there was briefcases hanging from the corners, and you would climb the corner and you would pick a briefcase, and you don't know whether you're going to get fired or whether you're going to get the Feast, which is a title match of your choosing. So he's just, I don't know if they had revealed what was in his case yet, or if the other person had already been fired.
No.
But it was pretty, I think it was established that he was getting a title shot.
Oh, okay.
I think, from my understanding, but I could be wrong.
We get confirmation of it at least later on tonight.
We'll talk about it later anyway. But yeah, Austin Aries, again, I say this every time Austin Aries is on the screen on an Impact. Why? Why you like the way you are? Because, like, you're just perfect. You cut a promo well. You had a star presence about you. You were great in the ring. You had it all. You just had to be a human, basically.
Had to make some decisions.
But so annoying. But he's just basically telling Spud, perhaps don't. You're being an
basically
idiot.
What you said. Like, you're not going to beat Kurt Angle, buddy. Let's not do that.
Finally, we got a match though. It is Dollhouse member Jade, Mia Yim, taking on Brooke Tessmacher.
3:38 this match last, so again,
really
on the longer side.
It felt longer.
That's what I have. I might be wrong though, but
no.
I usually time them ish, but then I got like 3:56 or something like that. But then I look it up to just make sure it's, and it was 3:38 is what it said online, so it was even less than I had it.
Damn, there you go.
But yeah, Marty Bell tries to interfere. Jade accidentally takes her out, and then the test stalker is, I believe so. And then she gets the win at about 3.5 minutes.
There's nothing really necessarily bad about this match. There's nothing really great. I will say at this point, Brooke Tessmacher had come a long way in the ring. I don't know if anyone remembers Brooke Tessmacher throughout her time. She was in WWE as Brooke in the Extreme Expose in ECW. So ECW original Brooke Tessmacher here, taking on Jade. But she had come a long way. She was a part of the Aces and Eights at one stage. She was Bully Ray's girlfriend, I want to say, after Brooke Hogan.
It looks like Bully Ray might have a type on television.
I think he said, I think I do remember at some point him being like, I'm with the hotter Brooke now. And it was Brooke.
That sounds like something he would say.
Hogan. So she was in the Aces and Eights. She a very attractive young lady, I'll say that.
Sure.
But yeah, she gets the win. Nothing too crazy about that.
Nothing bad, nothing great.
It was just a match that happened on this show because they're building to other things with the Dollhouse, basically.
We get some more Dollhouse. That's not the last we'll hear from the members of the Dollhouse tonight.
There is Dollhouse action a little bit later, but Jeremy Borash is backstage. Jeremy Borash. He is basically going on about how he doesn't really feel very comfortable. I think that was the words he used. I don't feel comfortable doing my job.
I don't feel, like something like a safe space type of thing,
Interesting, because he's interviewing EC3.
We don't even know where JB is, because this show takes place in 2 different states completely. So
I don't know where I was at this stage, because I was like, what is this? I don't even know if this is TNA. It's a very interesting time.
I wasn't sure. If it wasn't on the TNA Plus app, I would not know what I was watching for 2 hours.
No. Interesting. They don't really say too much in this segment. It's just basically talking about Spud being like, what's he gonna do? And EC3's like, don't do the wrong thing. And then he gets a phone call.
He does get a phone call, and that's the end of that.
Cool.
Wonderful segment.
Cool.
And then we get some more Dollhouse on the show. Brooke and Rebel are kind of celebrating Brooke's win, and then
by the way, just gonna interject. Rebel, another great comedy wrestler.
Yeah,
great comedy
Rebel
act.
follows me on Twitter, by the way, randomly.
Oh,
there you go. I have Tony Khan follows me. She follows me. I don't know why.
I had
Joe Hendry.
Layla following me for a little while.
Okay, Joe Hendry follows me for some reason.
Say his name.
I did, and then he followed
If
me.
you want to say his name and he appears on
He'll
this show,
follow
that's
you.
fucking fun to
There
me.
you go. Yeah, TNA, former TNA World Champion.
And we can watch a TNA episode with fucking Joe Hendry.
Get him on. Get him on it. Maybe I'll message him.
Yeah.
But Marty Bell and Jade come in and take out Rebel after Brooke celebrates her win. Rebel takes the brunt of the attack, obviously.
And they beat the shit out of him.
They beat the piss out.
Oh, and they leave a little like
a little
jawbreaker.
Yeah, a little candy thing.
I call them gobstoppers, but they're called jawbreakers. It's like a lollipop.
Right.
They're like a big lollipop that you suck on. Well, I shouldn't do that on screen. That you suck on screen.
That'll be on the highest Patreon coming up.
Yeah, you can see feet pics and me sucking on a gobstopper, which could be anything. But yeah, they're like a big lollipop.
Right.
You can't bite into them because they break your jaw, quote unquote. I don't know why the Dollhouse had lollipops though.
It's a lot of candy in the Dollhouse.
I don't really associate dollhouses with lollipops personally, but
yeah, I know.
I didn't play with a lot of dollhouses when I was a kid.
Just add it to the confusement of the show, I guess.
Yeah.
We have another match, Josh, finally.
Speaking of confusing.
Yeah. This one lasted 42, excuse me. We have the Rising against BDC, Josh.
So the Rising is let me get their names correct.
I got them here if you don't.
Yeah, you go because I don't want to call them by their wrong names.
Eli Drake, aka LA Knight. Drew Galloway, everybody knows who that is. And is it Micah or Mika? Is Tangaloa?
I say Micah, but
Micah?
It could be Mika. I don't really know.
It's Tangaloa. They beat
Tangaloa, by the way, who just recently returned at the Night of Champions, maybe to the biggest pop from my couch ever, because that man is the savior of professional wrestling right there. Also, he been eating. He a big.
He's a big boy. He's trying to get that. What do they call the big meaty men?
Yeah,
division.
Good for Tangaloa. It's so hilarious to me because even in this match, I'm like, you are just horse bad at wrestling, and I love you for it.
He's the best terrible wrestler ever.
Yeah, because it's not like, oh, you're bad.
It's not like Eli.
It's endearing.
Bad.
It's endearingly bad. He falls over a lot. Like he goes through a headlock and just
chops. The chops are funny as shit. The little.
He's so funny.
Something like that. But they competed against MVP, Kenny King, and Loki, the BDC.
Loki's another one, by the way, of those guys. I'm like, you are so good.
You
but
should not
why?
Be shit, please.
Why? Why do you do the things you do? Because you're so good. Do you remember his time in WWE?
In WWE, yes, I do. I sure do.
He was paired with Lay Cool in NXT, and it was the greatest fucking thing ever. Because he's he's like straight man, like just like
so serious and
then obviously Lay Cool well, they're Lay Cool, so they're gonna be like
monotone
extra.
And serious, yeah.
Real talk. They do their shit, and it just worked really fucking well. And then he has to be himself, and
unfortunately,
because he's so good in the ring,
He definitely falls into that Austin Aries category.
It's so good.
But this again, it's good. Okay, match.
It's fine. Yeah.
Drew gets a hot tag and pins Loki after hitting him with a Doomsday device at about a little bit less than 6 minutes for the Rising to get the win. And then we became the demise of a certain woman on the show. Josh.
Yes. It's this is why we picked this episode of Impact.
This
certainly wasn't for that 6-man tag.
A little behind the scenes. Josh texted me 4 or 5 days before the show. Hey, on the next episode, we're gonna talk about the episode where Mickie James gets hit by a train. I'm like, pardon me?
Yeah, CJ wasn't aware that this was a thing.
No, I was not.
I haven't stopped thinking about it in 10 years. So
it was unbelievable.
It is, for whatever reason, it is one of wrestling is a very wild thing. A lot of wild things happen in wrestling. Right. This is one of those things. It's like, now come again, because that's never fucking happened in wrestling before.
I literally said, "Pardon me" when you texted me.
Yeah, it just it's interesting. So we get a look back. So James Storm, he's been trying to like get Mickie James, like he wants her to turn into a big star. And presumably, or what they're alluding to is like it's in Nashville, it's for her country music stuff. Like everyone knows Mickie James's other profession is being a country music singer. So he's basically been like, Mickie, like, come on, like, let's get you to Nashville. I want to take you to the next level. I can put you in touch with some people that can kind of get you to where you go. So Mickey's like, all right, let's do this. Like, I want to, I'm not just a wrestler. I'm also a professional country singer. Let's do this. So they kind of show her in Nashville, in some kind of like office or something, or she's going into some kind of like meeting room or some bullshit like that.
And he was the only one there.
Yeah. So, well, first she's on the phone to Magnus,
right.
Her husband, Nick Aldis. And she tells like, give Donovan a kiss, which is their son. Walks into the office. Nobody's there. She's trying to figure out. And James Storm is just there. And he's like, hi, hi. So that's the
nothing
teaser.
else happened there.
That's the teaser. So at this point, I taking away what we're gonna get into. Don't obviously go into.
I don't know what's happening to this point. Yeah.
Are you just like, all right? Is it a little? I want you to use my words carefully here because I don't want it to sound like extreme, but like it felt.
Yeah, it's whatever you're gonna say. Yes.
Creepy. Like
it felt like
there.
It felt like one of those like really shitty Lifetime movies where like a boss coerces his assistant into his office, and she's like under the impression that it's gonna be like this big company-wide meeting, and he's the only one there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like it's not enough to actually accuse him or say anything about him, but
you just get a vibe.
It goes there, yeah.
And James Storm has a certain look about him too that I'm like, yeah,
that smile he does. Ugh.
It's weird.
Hey,
he's essentially in a program with Mickie James.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It happened.
Whatever.
Much more than that.
If he took her last name, he would be James James. I'm into that. Anyway.
Okay.
We are getting a match next. No, we're getting Rockstar Spud. It's
we
time
have
to
a
make
match for almost 40 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, it is. Feels well. Yeah. It's decision time for Mr. Spud.
Sure.
Is he going to relinquish the X Division Championship for a shot at the World Championship, or is he going to keep the X Division Championship and not utilize option C or whatever they call it?
Yep.
So he's in the ring. Borash says he needs to make the decision now. It's decision time. Because whether he's going to face this man, and Kurt Angle comes out. You know, Kurt Angle. Basically, Angle's like, I love you, Rockstar Spud. I fucking love you so fucking much.
He actually did cry like that as well.
I love you. Basically, that's what he says. And then it's decision time. Well, EC3 comes out again because
why not?
Why the fuck wouldn't he?
Exactly.
Trouble.
No barbershop quartet, however, this time, unfortunately.
No, but still, you know, whatever.
It's going my heart.
EC3, I remember one line that he said, and I was like, oh my God. He said that Angle is the greatest wrestler to ever live until EC3 come along. And I went, oh dear. Oh dear.
Unfortunately. Yep. Yeah.
Does he talk about his phone call, doesn't he?
Yep, he says he just got off the phone with Miss Dixie and says
his aunt. That's his aunt, by the way.
Excuse me. Aunt Dixie. And said that Dixie has given Spud a little bit of a deal here, potentially. He has a lifetime deal as the company's chief of staff, if he does not choose option C and just keeps
Take it, Spud. Title. Take it. You can never get released, Spud.
He gets a lifetime contract and keeps his X Division title. It seems like a pretty good idea.
I'd say yes.
But Spud says, "Fuck you, buddy."
Pretty much.
And says while the Carter stuck by him when he was, going through some difficult stuff in his life and his career, until EC3 slapped him in the face and spit in his face and shaved his head. So now he said what I just said, "Fuck you, buddy," and announces he will be using option C. and cashing in his X Division title for an opportunity against Kurt Angle at Destination X.
Which is episode of iMPACT next week. That is Destination X. And then basically they're like, blah, blah, blah. Let's have a tag match.
Yep, and we have our main event set: EC3 and Tyrus versus Angle and Mr. Spud.
Can't wait.
Later tonight.
Then we go backstage. Austin Aries is backstage. He's telling Bobby Roode, they're the dirty heels, by the way. I remember a few weeks ago when we talked about Bobby Roode and Austin Aries teaming up. I'm like, they had a name. And for the life of me, I couldn't think of what the name was. They're the dirty heels. Great name for a team. I always liked Austin Aries and Bobby Roode as a team. They're in this like series with the Wolves.
Yeah.
And basically Austin Aries is like, we got to beat them. We got to fucking do it, man. We got to beat them. And then he gives him a t-shirt and says, meet me in the ring. Or he'll see me in the ring later.
You'll see me later,
yep. Yeah.
But before they are in the ring, Josh,
we got more.
Lead here. Yep.
We got more in Nashville with James Storm and Mickie James. They're sitting on like this really tiny little couch. Like it's tiny. They're basically sitting in each other's lap. So basically James Storm is like, I brought you to Nashville because Magnus can't give you what you need. He wants Mickie to join his revolution. Not just Mickie.
His son, her son as well.
Mickie and her son Donovan.
Yep.
He wants to join the revolution. She said, she's like, Magnus is Magnus's son too. She's engaged to him. She was like confused. Mickie was really confused because I thought, she thought James Storm was her friend and this was like something else. But at this point, James Storm starts grabbing Mickey's hand.
You missed a very, what we were alluding to earlier type of line. He said he can offer her something much bigger than Magnus ever did.
Yes, implying, of course, about certain things.
Just a business opportunity.
I would like to. We need to break this down. You're looking at James Storm and Magnus as two individuals. Okay. Which one would be bigger?
James Storm.
Yeah, I would say so too. Unfortunately,
those like more muscular guys are not known.
Yeah, they
to
don't
have
usually.
The biggest
usually, like
on them.
You're like, oh, good for you.
For them, it's about the body, and that's all.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
But that's their selling point. Not what's below.
Yeah. Because you're like, okay, look at you, and then you look at James Storm, he's not a out of shape guy.
No,
but he's not Magnus.
He looks more like a normal in shape guy. Like I feel like I could get that body if I tried. I can't get Nick Aldis's body.
Sure.
Right.
Anyway, so they're going on about that. Mickey's like, she's like, you've misread. Oh, she's like, I've misread this situation. And she's like, no, that can't happen. And James Storm said, that's fine. Like he's like, I'm sorry if I misunderstood. He'll go along and stand behind her as a friend, because they're good friends.
Yeah. Yep.
And he gives her a really big hug, and then he looks at the camera, and he's like, that's where John Cena got it from, obviously.
He did. And he said to her as well, you need to watch out because there's a lot of crazies out there.
Yes. He wants to protect her.
He's certainly not one of them.
He wants to protect his good friend Mickie James.
Correct. And her son Donovan, of course.
And then he says he'll walk Mickie to her car, since there is a lot of crazies out there. Then we go back to the arena in Nashville, Orlando.
So you think, and I did, that was the end of that segment, is what I thought. It was not.
It was.
But we do get a match in between. We alluded to it earlier. The Dirty Heels, Aries and Mr. Roode, take on Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, like you mentioned, the Wolves. 13 minutes, this match.
Pretty good match, by the way.
All good workers here.
Yeah, and like this is the most TNA it felt.
Yep.
With this wrestling. It was the style that TNA was built on. It was that it was a little bit different to WWE's pacing. I was like, there
was all TNA guys in it. These are all TNA guys.
I was like, this is what TNA was to me. Not just because of the people in it. Like, it just felt the most TNA in that time. It was a good match. I enjoyed it.
I had it as match of the night, but I wrote match of the night, but there wasn't a high bar, if I'm being honest.
Match of the night because there was no other contenders, basically.
Yeah, right.
So it is what it is. But yeah, pretty good match. There was like a dope Austin Aries 450 in the match that I really loved. I was like, again, why do you do this? And then basically there was a lot of falsies too, a lot of false finishes in this match. I was like, whoa, and when is this gonna end? And then they basically cheat to win. Well, it's a bit convoluted, isn't it? Because Austin Aries wants him to use the title, and Bobby Roode's like, no, I can't do that. But then he ends up just hitting him in the dick anyway.
Yeah, he just gives him a little shot below the belt for the one,
the win.
Yeah.
It was a good match. Again, it was I enjoyed it. They're happy. They're real happy about it all, and they get the win.
They are
over
dirty
the
heels at the end of the day.
Because they are zero. They were going into this 0-2 in the best of 5 series. So the Wolves only need one more win. And they've done
surely
this.
they'll win the series then, Josh.
Well, we'll see what happens with that.
And then we have I'll let you again talk to this, but we have the reason we're watching this program here tonight.
This is the reason we're watching this. The most infamous moment in this era of TNA. Oh boy! So we see security footage. It's security cam footage. So it's like CCTV kind of deal. It's black and white. It's a bit grainy. And James Storm has been a lovely guy. He's walking Mickey back to her car.
He's just a protector, Josh.
There's a lot of crazies out there. There's a lot of crazies, and they're like set up so there's like train tracks. Like it's fairly narrow, I would say. It's like train tracks and then like a small, like any kind of
like subway system.
Yeah, like think Harry Potter and think of how that kind of is situated.
Yeah.
It looks like that. If you want to get a visual, if you've never seen this before, so oh my god, so they pass the train tracks and Storm thinks her train. He thinks her train is coming. Mickey doesn't know what he's talking about.
It kind of came out of nowhere.
He like did it in a way. He didn't like push her. He like turned to the side. He grabbed her phone first.
Yeah.
And then he like bumped her. And
I was like, hey, it's an expensive phone. You don't want to break the phone. Nice.
By the way, props to Mickey James. She sold the fuck out of that bump.
Well,
she was like, see ya. Well, she dropped. Did he take the phone or did she drop it?
I think he like snatched it, kind of.
I don't know if it fell on the ground, like she had thrown the phone and she had fallen, and then he picked it up. Either he pushed her, and there was a train coming.
So Mickey, we had a death here on the program.
And then he takes the phone and calls Nick and tells Mickey he won't be home for dinner. And then the train horn is like honk honk choo choo, and then she gets run over.
Yeah,
she's dead.
She died. Mickey James died on this episode.
Mickey James is dead, and he just told her husband or fiance that she won't be home for dinner because she's in fact dead.
She won't be home for any dinners, really.
No, he pushed this woman in front of a train because she wouldn't do the nasty with him.
She didn't want his big business.
By the way, that's typical men behavior. By the way,
yeah. So you could say this is the most realistic segment of the night. This is the most realistic segment TNA's done in a while. Someone said.
You don't really hear of many women being like, "You won't have sex with me, I'm going to kill you." It's always men.
There are a couple out there, but not nearly as many. Not nearly as many. I would say one woman for every 700 men, probably.
Sure.
Yeah. But luckily he protected her from the crazy stuff.
So true. He did protect her from the crazies. You can't get crazies when you're dead.
Listen.
Hit by a train.
Listen.
Kills over 1 Americans every year.
Mickey was one of those.
It's true. But anyway.
It was.
We go back
you told me it was happening, and I just still laughed at it. Like it was still hilarious.
I still laugh at it, and I've seen it a lot.
Unbelievable.
Could you imagine the first time I ever seen it?
Yeah, I could imagine.
Someone told me that it happened, and I was like, no, it didn't. And then I watched it, and I was like, holy fucking shit.
I don't know why, because again, I watched it. It was very early in the morning, so I'm not like fully brained on it. But did commentary do anything? Say anything?
They weren't talking over this segment, no.
No, after. Like, did they just be like, what did we just watch? I don't remember.
Huh. I don't remember either, because they go back to Nashville, Orlando, Florida, and Madison Rain is in the ring.
Yeah, we get another not another, but a women's segment, yeah. Well, they did talk about the dollhouse. Anyway. Yeah.
That's after this, isn't it? Or is it before? Maybe it's the dollhouse then that.
No, they just mentioned the Gail, they talk about the dollhouse in this segment.
Oh, right. Gotcha. So, yeah, Madison Rain comes to the ring. She's like bitching, basically. She's like,
I want
blah,
some
blah,
more
blah.
respect. Yada yada.
Yeah, I want respect. And then she talks about Velvet Sky, who shows up in the crowd and gets right on TV, taking up all the TV time.
Doesn't work here anymore, Josh.
And then Velvet Sky comes out of the crowd, Shield style. Here comes the fourth member of the Shield, Velvet Sky. Why is she dressed like a biker? I'm so confused by it all.
She's a rebel, Josh. She doesn't work here anymore.
She doesn't work there. I'm gonna dissect this segment at the end because something really annoyed me about this segment. But anyway, Velvet Sky comes out. Madison invites her in, and she's like trying to get her spot back because she got fired. Okay, so this is how checked out of TNA I was. I didn't realize that the Beautiful People, which at one point was Madison Rain, Angelina Love, and Velvet Sky, were feuding. I never realized that they had a feud. I thought they were always just together. I knew Madison Rain had kind of ventured out of the Beautiful People at some point, but I didn't realize that these two also.
Well, Josh, you see, I don't know. I clearly didn't pay attention because Velvet Sky doesn't work there anymore, so they were not feuding.
No,
because she's not an
sorry,
employee.
my bad.
So,
She's
that's okay.
Well, so she basically, Velvet gets in the ring.
She's going to jail, Josh.
Well, she gets in the ring and then she gets slapped by Madison Rain. But then Velvet responds by laying out Madison Rain with a stunner. But then Angelina Love comes out with her security team and reminds her that she's been fired. And she tells her security, not fucking police, not the Nashville, Orlando, Florida Police Department, her security to arrest her.
By the way, if she was really, this is what I got it, not realistic, but why did the security and police or whoever let her get in the ring and like potentially abuse a wrestler before they took action?
Here's what I don't understand. So again, I'm going to break this down and I'll loop around. Okay. But so she fights so Stone Cold Velvet Sky is fighting off the security team here. She's like fucking going crazy, beating the shit out of them, and they eventually arrest her or put her in handcuffs, and Angelina comes in and fucking beats her up and shit, whatever. Couple of slaps, gets her down with a forearm, blah blah blah. Then this is where I get really confused. Oh my god, I'm gonna try to contain myself here and not get too angry because it really pissed me off. So they escort her out or whatever, Velvet Sky. Then the regular TNA security comes out again, not police.
No.
And they are like, you assaulted a fan, so you need to be arrested.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. So why the fuck didn't they arrest Madison Rain? Because she also assaulted a fan. That's where it doesn't make sense to me, because you're arresting, but security have no right to arrest anybody. That's security. But they can't arrest people, right? Security can't arrest people.
But here, you're also not factoring this in. The Nashville, Orlando, Florida, Tennessee security, police, the actual police department, were too busy investigating the death that just occurred.
Well, that's true, because it was in Nashville, Orlando, Florida. Or was that one in Nashville, Tennessee?
I don't know.
Was that one in Nashville, Tennessee? You see, I don't know. They probably needed the fucking SWAT team.
They needed both because how big of a
go and investigate that one. But yeah, they arrest.
Madison Rain got off pretty easily here somehow. Yeah.
Well, she just got a stunner, but she also assaulted a fan because Velvet Sky doesn't work there, technically. So shouldn't she be arrested as well?
Evidently not.
Fuck me.
Maybe because Velvet jumped the thing and went after her. So it's defense.
Aside from that little fucking blunder in my mind where I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I didn't think it was a bad segment. I think it done what it needed to do. I don't necessarily know if I buy Velvet Sky as a face, but I'm just so used to seeing her as a beautiful
I would not.
No, and why was she like, I don't know. At this point though, again, I didn't know that this is obviously leading to some form of a match.
Yeah.
With Angelina and Velvet, maybe even with Madison tied in there as well, but
well, they're just gonna fight in prison, I think, Velvet and Angelina.
Oh yeah, because they're going to prison.
Right, they're just gonna have a match at the jail yard.
Putting them in prison, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, all right, cool. Let's watch that. We go to more backstage segments after that. Taryn Terrell is in the. I distinctly remember her saying dollhouse bedroom, and I don't know why, but I'm like, okay, righto. She's basically like, I'm gonna be the new face of the Knockouts division because I'm gonna beat the fuck out of Awesome Kong or whatever.
That's believable.
That's pretty much what she said, right?
Yep, that's
Okay.
pretty much what I got written down in different words, but yep.
Fantastic. No, nothing to add there, or want to add anything else?
No, actually, no.
Oh, I should also add, she's very sexy.
She is, and
She's very sexy,
I can't wait for next week when she puts the X
and
in
that makes
Destination
me
X.
that makes me hate her because she's sexy.
Mhm.
You bitch.
What do you think she's gonna do at Destination X to put the X in it? If you had to guess.
Maybe she'll get out her asshole.
Oh, okay. Destination America might allow that. I'm not sure.
On a
Getting
show called
assholes.
Destination maybe it's going to be Destination Triple X.
Or maybe, titties are so American, it's on Destination America.
Yes.
So she just pulls them out on TV, maybe. Who knows?
A titty's American?
Hers are. She's American.
Sure. Where's Taryn Terrell from?
Nashville, Orlando, Florida, Tennessee, maybe?
Perhaps. Talk about this main
take a
event
look
while
here.
I look it up.
Okay, you're going to look it up. All right.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
We have Kurt Angle and Rockstar Spud taking on EC3 and Tyrus. This match goes 6:48. My first line of this match is meh, whatever match.
She's from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Hey, shout out to Louisiana. I'm right there,
Yep.
30 minutes
Yeah.
away. That's not where
Are you-
WrestleMania will be next
Are you
year.
going to hang out with Taryn Terrell and the Dollhouse?
Probably not.
Anyway.
I put Angle and Tyrus get hot tags. Angle has the ankle lock on AC3. Tyrus breaks it up. Spud kind of makes like the behind the shoulder tag without Angle seeing it. Angle, pretty nice. Tyrus Angle slam on Tyrus. That was pretty impressive. And then Spud does his little dive onto Tyrus for the 3 count.
Yeah.
It's really about the post match stuff here, though.
Yes. Now now that he's wrestling, we have a full right to talk about Ethan Carter the third wrestling. Okay. I want to say, I just want to clarify what we said before. Now, do I think he's the worst wrestler that's ever wrestled? No. There's much worse that's wrestled than him. However, the position they were putting him in, he was a sub fucking par main event wrestler.
I would say subpar.
Yeah. Again, if you just looked at him in the corner and he didn't do anything, you'd be like, that is the next fucking John Cena. Look at this man. He's got everything you want for a wrestler. And then he does a fucking collar and elbow tie up, and you're like, perhaps I would be a better wrestler than this man in the main event spot. Like, I have more ring psychology than him.
Some would say you have a nicer body than him as well.
Some
would say.
Some. That'd be right, but some.
Right. You don't want to embarrass him, though.
Absolutely not. I could probably embarrass him in wrestling. I could do.
I don't think that's inaccurate. I think you could.
And I've never done it before, but I'm pretty certain I could do it better. Again, just for the spot that he was in. If he was wrestling on the fucking second match of the night, I'll be like, whatever. I get why you're there. But man, oh man, I didn't really have anything else to add to this match. It's the post match, like you said. They're building towards this Spud title match next week with Kurt Angle. However, it's all gonna fucking change because Austin Aries comes out the top of the ramp and he said, basically what he said, he was like, "You're a fucking idiot. I told you not to take the shot. It wasn't because of you. It's because of fucking me. Because I'm cashing in my briefcase for the world championship. So it's for the winner. So the start of, oh my God, this is so convoluted. Kurt Angle and Spud is going to start the night off on Destination X, and then the winner of that match will wrestle Austin Aries in the main event.
Right, same night. Yep.
Same night. So cool.
Angle looks like he did like his again, he doesn't like this term, but like his perk Angle anger. Yeah, like that anger. He was not happy about it. And EC3 is equally as upset about it because now he thinks he's now going to get the third title shot. The third,
even though he's the number one ranked wrestler in the company.
So he's gonna, he's number one ranked, so he's gonna get the third title match. Assuming Angle wins the other two. Yeah, sure, just kind of ends there.
By the way, I'm pretty certain we won't be reviewing Destination X 2015 on this show, but we might one day, so I won't spoil it for you guys. No. But I think they did a pretty good job of setting up next week, but it just was a
They
certainly.
I'm not gonna lie. I looked up on TNA Plus after I watched this again a couple weeks ago when we were originally gonna record. And I did watch the matches from Destination X, those two
Oh, there you go.
matches,
There you
because
go.
I was a little intrigued. I was like, I might as well.
Well, it's doing its job then, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Good
that
for
goes to my
them.
point. They did their job, like you said.
But it is funny how we're, giving our thoughts on this show now as a whole. But we witnessed murder
Mm.
and we witnessed EC3 wrestling, but still
Some would say
somehow
that's
I think
worse.
I would still say somehow Mickie James win in that scenario.
Yeah, and she also got away from James Storm, who was very odd and that very creepy.
He just wanted to join the revolution.
Mickie James was somehow like the fourth worst thing that happened on the show somehow. I don't know. And she passed away.
She died.
She is
so, obviously, spoilers here, friends. Mickie James is not dead. She in fact wrestles for TNA in about 4 weeks after this. But I do remember the assumption. I don't know if they ever said the words, but the assumption was that she was no longer with us.
Mm.
In the sense of her passing. Superwoman. She come back from the dead.
Hey, Mickie James is one of the best to ever do it, Josh.
I couldn't agree more. And some people don't put her in that category, and I think it's weird. She should be in the Hall of Fame.
Name one other woman that's a former world champion of multiple companies that died and then won a world title after they died.
I can't name one.
You can name her.
It is an undisputed accolade that Mickie James has there, and rightfully so.
And some would say that no one will ever do that after this. No one will ever do that again.
Yeah, the day is young. In fact,
that's true. That's a good point.
You don't know what the fuck is going to happen in professional wrestling because anything can happen, and this is a perfect example of anything can happen in professional wrestling because attempted murder was in fact attempted.
And we also came up with a new area. What was it? Nashville, Orlando, Florida, Tennessee. So
yeah, Nashville, Orlando, Florida, Tennessee is where this show took place. So bless their hearts. Bless their. It is kind of silly when you think about it. Like, why are they still their headquarters and that have all been happening in Nashville for the longest time?
Still in
Orlando. Clearly they have shifted a lot to Nashville. Why not just have the show in Nashville? Is it just a better scene or better? Is it easier to have shows in Orlando?
Probably cheaper because it was already there. Maybe they don't have to move stuff.
Maybe are they still in the impact zone at Universal?
I think so.
It looked like it, but I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure.
But why not just have an impact zone in Nashville? Wouldn't that just be so much? Wouldn't it be cheaper?
Well, Josh, that makes too much sense. Let's not get crazy now.
It's clearly based in Nashville is not the biggest wrestling city, but I wouldn't say Orlando is for other reasons. But I mean, I wouldn't really say Nashville is a hotbed, but also
no. But it's also not a random city either.
No, it's weird though, isn't it? That they just I don't know. Josh, whatever.
Not as we saw after the show, during the show, I should say, not much makes sense here.
No.
So, yeah.
That's
par
for
the course.
Hell yeah. All right, well, that's going to wrap us up for this episode of TNA Impact, June 3rd, 2015. If you want to watch this episode, you can go to TNA Plus, sign up for, what is it, $9.99 US?
Yep.
Do that. You can watch this episode if you feel the need to, or just watch the Mickie James getting murdered.
That's all you need to watch.
You can probably watch it in a GIF, and you can see what happens. So, watch that. Do that. We'll be back next week. We're back in the swing of things. I haven't told CJ this yet, but I may as well tell you guys now. The next episode of TNA Impact that we're watching, we're heading to 2010, October of 2010, because it is the TNA wrestling debut of JWoww from Jersey Shore.
That's one of my guilty pleasure shows. I watched every episode when Jersey Shore was on.
Pleasure. I'm not fucking guilty for watching Jersey Shore. I used to watch that shit on loop. I love the Jersey Shore.
Yep,
but we are going to watch the TNA wrestling debut of JWoww next week on Impact Intact.
If that's not a cliffhanger.
By the way, I can tell you from experience watching that episode of TNA Impact, if you think the wrestling was fucking light on some of the shows, you haven't met this episode of TNA Impact. Just trust me. but we're going to watch the TNA wrestling debut of JWoww.
Can't be worse than EC3's wrestling.
Okay. All right, everyone. Follow us, the Hive _media. Follow me right there. It's been there the whole time. You follow CJ right there. What do we got this week on the Hive? We got watch parties for Raw, All In, Evolution, all happening within the next week. We've got where I'm back to normal on Twitch. I'm doing all that kind of shizniz. We just had an Evolution sim. So if you want to watch that took place yesterday, you can watch it on our YouTube. The Buzz is back this week. The Swarm will be Wednesday and Thursday with CJ and JPJ. There's going to be stuff on the Substack from myself, from DC, from Peggy soon, and from Bryn. And
DC on there now?
Yeah, he's on there now. He's going to be every single Sunday. He's going to be doing a lot of Major League Baseball stuff every single Sunday, so you can catch up with all your baseball stuff with him. I will have something very special on the Substack this week, but I won't tell you guys yet because it's later in the week. It's all special.
Okay.
But you can also go and catch up on all of the Substacks that we have posted so far. There's gaming stuff with Peggy. There's a lot of older wrestling content if you're into like the new generation era of wrestling with Bryn. And then I've had some stuff on Katy Perry's concert and some AFL stuff, which I'll have some more stuff from AFL coming up soon as we head in towards the latter half of the season for the AFL. So I'll have some more stuff there. There's a lot of good stuff on the Hive, and it just keeps growing. So make sure to come and hang out with the Hive every single week. We pretty much have content of some kind daily. So there's pretty much not a day that goes by where we don't have content. So whether you like wrestling, whether you like sports, whether you like pop culture, whether you like gaming, whether you like Katy Perry, we have it for you. We really, truly do. And I never thought I'd say that. But we truly have it all covered here on the Hive. So make sure to go and follow us. CJ, anything you want to add before we get the fuck out of here?
No, it's just Hive every day, like we said. Yeah, you can, if you want to hear about people ranting about baseball, we got that. If you want to hear people ranting about Katy Perry, we got that. I don't know where else you're getting all those things.
There's truly
people
no
dying on wrestling shows.
Murder, Katy Perry,
Katy Perry, baseball.
Horrible trades in baseball.
Perhaps
they're all the same thing. I'm not honestly sure. This could be.
You never know.
All right, friends. You have a good rest of your day, night, morning, wherever it is, wherever you are. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay pretty, stay safe. We'll see you next Monday for more Impact Intact.